Turn up the volume.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Everyone together, a little louder, please. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, bolo bolo bolo. Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama,
Hare Krishna, dear devotees, my humble obeisances to you all. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you all for joining His Holiness Candramauli Swami Maharaj's daily class. Today we are continuing with our Srimad Bhagavatam series of first canto, verse number 19, chapter 19 and verse number 17. Today, Hare Krishna Maharaj, my humble obeisances to you. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you so much for your time and association for all of us. You can please take over whenever you are ready. Thank you.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Iti Sma Raja Dyavayasya Yukta. Prachinamuleshu Kuteshu Diraha. Udan Mukho Dakshina Kula Aste. Samhudrapatnya Swasuta Nyasta Baraha. Drop it down a little. I can't. Oh, there you go. In perfect self-control, Maharaj Pariksit sat down on a seat of straw, with straw roots facing the east, placed on the southern bank of the Ganga, and he himself faced the north. Just previously, he had been given charge of his kingdom over to his son. Purport. The river Ganges is celebrated as the wife of the sea. The seed of kusha grass is considered to be sanctified if the straw is taken out of the earth, complete with root, and if the root is pointed towards the east, it is considered to be auspicious. Facing the north is still more favorable for attaining spiritual success. Maharaj Pariksit handed over the charge of administration to his son before leaving home. He was thus fully equipped for all favorable conditions. Om Gyan Timirandasya Gyana Jana Salakaya Chaksun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadam Mayam Dadati Swapadantikam. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namane. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gaudavani Pucharine. Nirvisesa Sunyavari Pastyatya Desastarine. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda. Shri Advaita Gadadhar Sivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Vanchakalpa tarubhischa, Kripa Sindhupe Vacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namaho Namaha. So here we're seeing preparing himself now for meditation, and he is entering into the proper mood by fixing everything according to the auspiciousness of the event. Kusha is, sometimes we call it krusha grass, krusha straw. It actually is the hairs on the body of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, which grew on earth when Varahadev, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, picked up Mother Earth from the Garbardak Ocean after it had been knocked out by the exploitation of Hiranyaksha, the big powerful demon. He again placed it back into its orbit, and having dove into the water, he shook his body, and when he shook, the hairs of his body fell from his body onto the earth, and these hairs are called Krusha grass or Krusha straw. Now, these are very holy, very auspicious. So for meditation, it is highly recommended that one sit on a mat made out of Krusha grass, and it has to be pointed in a certain direction, as it says here, in the east. Facing north is more favorable for attaining spiritual success. He fully took care of all of his responsibilities by leaving his kingdom in the hands of his son after instructing his son how to rule. He was all ready to go on to his final destination. So here we can see how Vedic culture, in the spiritual aspect of meditation and prayer and spiritual attainment, there are certain things, just like Srila Prabhupada would always say, sit properly when you're chanting japa. And he would mention that in the japa tape, and it was recorded twice in the one tape. He says, sit properly, which means back straight. Eyes can be open or half opened. They shouldn't be closed, because if they're closed, there's a tendency to fall asleep. Half opened eyes is what the yogis develop in their meditation. That way they don't see anything, but at the same time, they are not inclined to fall asleep. So if you can practice that, that is the ideal, what we say, posture. Keeping the right arm up with the bead bag close to the chest, holding it across the chest with the bead bag in front, and not below the waist. It's not recommended to keep the bead bag below the waist. Of course, if you're sitting down, sometimes you do that, but it is not recommended. And also the left arm using a mudra. I don't know if you can see me, but the mudra is like this. Let's see, take the thumb and the first finger and make a curl with the other three fingers straight, like that. And that is the mudra for concentration. So all these can be applied to our meditation on the holy name. If we follow these, some people cannot sit in the lotus position, so they have to sit in the chair. So, but still keep the back straight, keep the arm above the waist, like that, and focus carefully on the sound vibration and chant carefully with attention. All of these are preliminary to helping and bring about concentration, because in spiritual life, it's all about concentration, keeping our concentration on Krishna, keeping our concentration on the activities of devotional service. The mind has a tendency to be restless. Chanchala hi mana Krishna pramati balavadriha. It's very flickering. It likes to move around, goes this way and that way. So by performing all of these postures and in the right mood, we reduce the tendency of the mind to wander this way or that way. And of course, chanting is focusing on the sound vibration of Krishna's holy name and keeping the attention on the sound, hearing the sound very clearly, pronouncing the words clearly. Clear pronunciation is conducive to meditation. When devotees chant sometimes too fast, they garble the sounds or push them together, or sometimes they skip some of the words, and then it becomes very difficult to concentrate. And that should be carefully and very strictly avoided. So here, of course, Maharaj Pariksit is gone now. He's going to hear Sukadeva Goswami, the goal of life, through the expression or the dissertation of Srimad Bhagavatam, like that. Okay, so we can go on to the next verse. Evam chitasman naradeva deve prayopaviste diva deva sangaha prayasya bomo vyakiran prasunayar mudam mahurdundam bayaschaneduhu. Thus the king, Maharaj Pariksit, sat to fast until death. All the demigods and the higher planets praised the king's action, and in pleasure continually scattered flowers over the earth and beat celestial drums. Purport. Even up to the time of Maharaj Pariksit, there were interplanetary communications, and the news of Maharaj Pariksit fasting until death to attain salvation reached the higher planets in the sky where the intelligent demigods live. The demigods are more luxurious than the human beings, but all of them are obedient to the orders of the Supreme Lord. There is no one in the heavenly planets who is an atheist or a non-believer. Thus, any devotee of the Lord on the surface of the earth is always praised by them. And in the case of Maharaj Pariksit, they were greatly delighted and thus gave tokens of honor by scattering flowers over the earth and beating celestial drums. The demigods take pleasure in seeing someone go back home, back to Godhead. He is always pleased with the devotee of the Lord, so much so, by his adidaivic power, he may help the devotees in all respects. And by their actions, the Lord is pleased with them. There is an invisible chain of complete cooperation between the Lord, the demigods, and the devotees of the Lord on the earth. So here we see how when one is a devotee and is engaged nicely in devotee service, the demigods also become very pleased to see that, and they want to help by somehow doing something to help bring about the success of that devotee's devotional service. So getting help from the devas is getting help from persons who are very powerful, very influential. Here they want to show their happiness and glorification, and they scatter flowers all over the earth, and we're beating celestial drums. So it's like a celebration. The king, who was a great devotee of the Lord, is now going to fast until death, until he leaves his body, and then he will attain to the higher realms. But of course, this is all changed by the appearance of Sukadeva Goswami, which will come up in the later verses. Then everyone understood what was the right thing for the medicine that was needed for Maharaj Pariksit, and that was for him to hear Srimad Bhagavatam for the benefit of the entire universe, and not only for his own personal benefit. But here gives you a little indication of the demigods, how they think, what is their heavenly situation. It says there is no atheists and non-believers there in the heavenly planets. They're devas. Sometimes they act a little independent, and they have to be corrected by the Supreme Lord, but generally they follow the will of the Lord and assist the Lord in their service as universal controllers. There's a demigod for every feature of material energy. When Sanatana Goswami was staying just outside of Manasi Ganga, and he was performing his meditation and prayers and chanting. He was right next to Chakaleshwara Mahadev, which is a temple of Lord Shiva. And every night he would come for his prayers and meditation, but there was some disturbance from mosquitoes. Mosquitoes were disturbing his meditation, so it was becoming bothersome. Lord Shiva was very happy that this great soul, Sanatana Goswami, was meditating and praying right near his own place of bhajan. So after some time, Sanatana got a little discouraged and decided, I'm not coming back to this place because the mosquitoes are too disturbing. I cannot concentrate. And so he made it at least in his mind. He said, tomorrow I will go to another place. Lord Shiva understood that, and Lord Shiva appeared to Sanatana Goswami in the form of a great sadhu. And he said, oh, my dear Sanatana, it is great happiness for all of us and great benedictions that you are here performing your meditations. So I know there is some disturbances from the mosquitoes, but I can guarantee you it won't happen anymore. So Lord Shiva, in the form of this sadhu, spoke to Sanatana, and Sanatana was convinced, so he decided to come back. And Lord Shiva, at that time, he is called Mahadev. He is the king of all of the demigods. He's the greatest of all demigods. He is called Mahadev, the greatest of all devas. And so he went to the demigod who's in charge of mosquitoes, because there was a demigod for every aspect of existence. There's 33 million demigods, each have a particular service to control one aspect of the material energy. So he went to the demigod who's in charge of mosquitoes and said, keep your mosquitoes away from Sanatana. And of course he complied. And Sanatana came back, and then there was no disturbance from mosquitoes from then on. And it says that even to this day, that place is free from mosquitoes by the mercy of Lord Shiva. So this is just an example of many examples of the influence that the devas have. So we don't worship the devas, but we honor the devas. We can also praise the devas. Worship is for the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But there is a class of people who worship the devas for material benedictions. But these are people who are, Krishna says, are Rita Gyan. They don't know their actual benefit. Rita Gyan means their intelligence is corrupted, disturbed, damaged. Those who worship the demigods, Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, they go to the planet of the demigods. But those who worship me come to me. And Krishna says, whatever the demigods can supply, they do it on my behalf. So it's understood that devotees honor the demigods because they are great devotees, but we don't worship them like we would worship the Supreme Lord. But there's a class of people whose goal is to take up spiritual life to increase the quality of their material life. They want better facilities so they can enjoy material nature. They want wealth, so they worship Ganesh. They want some power, so they worship Durga. They want some health, so they worship the sun god Surya. They worship Indra for good sex. There's a whole list in the Srimad Bhagavatam. It'll come up in the second canto. I believe it's the third chapter in the second canto. Talks about if you want material benedictions, there's a particular demigods that is there. If you want good family, you worship the Prajapatis. If you want to have victory over your enemies, you worship the demons. If you want a good wife, you worship Uma, the wife of Lord Shiva. But then again, after giving all of these statements, it says, Akamo, Sarvakarma Va, Moksha Karma Udaradi, Pivrena Bhakti Yogena, Yajeta Purusham Param. That whether you have material desires, no material desires, and you're fixed in freedom from all material desires, or you are engaged in devotional service, one should worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So demigod worship is very much condemned and discouraged also. But still, especially in the continent of India, demigod worship goes on in a very big way. And also we see people we also know, they come to our temples, and they bring gifts for the Lord, and they're praying for something material. We don't approach the Lord for anything material. We approach the Lord for devotional service, or from freedom from material desires. That we can also approach. But which means everything is done in order to enhance the quality of our devotion. But there's a class of people. I remember I'll give you an example. I was in the UK, it was many years ago, and one man was telling me about one lady. She had gone to the temple, and she went in front of the Sitaram Lakshman Hanuman there in Bhaktivedanta Manor. And she started praying, my dear Lord, my son is going to university. He has 10 subject matters. Please give him A's and the best marks in all of the subjects. So she made her prayer, left. At the end of the semester, the boy got 9 A's, not 10. She was a little disappointed. She came back and said to the Lord, my prayer was for 10 A's. You only gave 9. She was also taking the Lord to task. He hadn't fulfilled her materialistic prayer. Well, God is not like that. He's not there to give us all of these things that we can chase after in this material world. Rupam dehi, dhanam dehi, janam dehi, yaso dehi. Dehi is not a prayer by those who understand their relationship with the Supreme Lord. They ask, my dear Lord, what can I do for you? But then the materialists who have some inclination towards spiritual life, they think that the Lord is there simply to fulfill their desires for material happiness. And so they also do pujas, prayers, rituals, and perform sometimes very great austerities in order to achieve some mercy. But Krishna says that the demigods, whatever they give, it's limited, it's temporary. So in the Bhagavad Gita, the 7th chapter, verses 20 through 23, Krishna speaks 4 verses which discourage the whole idea of demigod worship. Because demigod worship is not our nature. We're meant to worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That is our nature. And ultimately attain to the perfection of life by going back home, back to Godhead. But the demigods, they don't even appreciate those who worship them for material desires. because they give sometimes some benedictions, not always, but sometimes, they'll do that. That's their position. Why is demigod worship somehow going on? Because it keeps people in connection with the spiritual essence. And hopefully they'll give it up and use the element of worship for the Supreme Personality of Godhead. If we discourage people from worshiping altogether and say you shouldn't worship the demigods, but don't explain where worship should go, they might decide not to worship at all. And that would be detrimental to them. So we encourage them that yes, worship is there, but worship of the Supreme Lord, as Krishna says, Yoginam api sarvesham madgatendra natmanaha, but Shwaravan bhajate yomam te me yuktatamo mataha. That the highest, and all of the yogis, all of those who perform various worships, there's one who worships me in devotion. He is the highest. And so that is the goal of the devotees, to focus their attention on Krishna and devotional service. We grow up in the continent of India. We're trained to worship devas. There's so many rituals, so many pujas, so many particular days for fasting and doing all kinds of other deva pujas. But Krishna lifted Govardhan Hill just to teach, just like Nanda Maharaj wanted to worship Indra so they could get rains for their. Krishna discouraged that. He said, there's no need to worship Indra. His job is to give rain anyway, so the rain will come. Don't worry. You don't have to worship him. Better if we turn our attention to the cows and the Brahmins. Let us honor the Brahmins and worship the cows. And they agreed, but Indra got angry, and then he sent torrents of rain. And Krishna protected all of the devotees. So we see from this example, and this Govardhan Puja happens right at the time when there's 2 weeks of Deva Pujas that are part of the calendar, where people worship the Devas around that time of the year. And Krishna showed by this pastime, just worship me. And then all of your, all the success in life and everything you want will automatically come through the worship of the Supreme Lord. But we honor the demigods. We don't criticize the demigods. We don't find fault with the demigods. We know that they are also devotees. They have material desires, many of them, because they want to serve the Lord in a certain way. They want that powerful position of being controllers. So because they perform austerities and penances and devotional service, they are sakama bhaktas, not near kama bhaktas. They have desires for material gain, and that is because they're attached to their position as demigods. But anyway, still they're great devotees. And the devotees on this earth, we honor the demigods, and the demigods also appreciate, and especially if they see a pure devotee of the Lord, and they will glorify that pure devotee in so many different ways. Okay, so we can stop there.
Hare Krishna, Maharaj, thank you so much. Such a wonderful class. In the first verse, you explained about how we have to maintain our posture for japa, and which will help us to be concentrating on the mantra. And the second verse, you talked about the demigod worship and gave a lot of insights. Thank you so much. Dear devotees, if you have any questions or comments or realizations, you can please go ahead. And please turn on your cameras if possible, wherever you are. Thank you. So today we have 28 devotees online, Maharaj. Yes, Sridevi Mataji, please go ahead.
Thank you. Dear Guru Maharaj, please accept my most humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. This is very encouraging to hear, Guru Maharaj, that there's an invisible link between demigods and the devotees to worship the Lord. And I was just thinking that in our day-to-day dealings, we may not be so much aware, but when there's some big event like a Rath Yatra or some very big festival, and very bad weather has been predicted, suddenly the weather will clear, the sun will come out, everybody will be smiling, and everybody will say, that's Krishna, that's Krishna. Bad weather was predicted, but now just see, the sun is out. So I was just thinking about that, sharing that. That's all. Thank you very much.
Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Thank you, Mataji. So, Maharaj, while others are thinking, so you were saying that we should not tell the devotees to stop, or the neophytes or new people to stop the demigod worship. Can you please explain more a little bit?
Say that again. I didn't catch that.
Yeah, you were saying that if we tell them to stop the demigod worship, it will be detrimental, or
No, we don't encourage the demigod worship, but we encourage the idea of worship.
Okay.
Tell them this just to stop worshiping the demigods
Mhm.
without giving them the alternative of where worship should be applied. Then they'll just give up that, and then they won't worship at all. That's why demigod worship is allowed, so people can eventually come to the platform of understanding where worship should actually be applied to the Supreme Lord. So it's not that we discourage, well, we say, yes, it's not necessary to worship the demigods, because Krishna says the same thing. He said, whatever the demigods can supply is ultimately coming from me. So just like Ganesh, he can remove obstacles in devotional service. And he does that by keeping his tuli, his tusk, at the lotus feet of Lord Nrsingadev. But we don't worship Ganesh, we worship Nrsingadev.
Yes.
We don't have to go to Ganesh for that type of benediction. We can pray to Lord Nrsingadev because he is, inclined to move obstacles. So Ganesh gets his power to remove obstacles from Lord Nrsingadev. So we can worship Lord Nrsingadev. We do. By here, Nishringo, Ridaye, Nishringo. Wherever I go, Lord Nrsingadev is there.
Yes, Maharaj. Yeah. Yeah. So dovetailing their demigod worship, or the worship towards Krishna.
Exactly.
Got it.
But don't discuss, if you tell them not to worship at all, without giving them the understanding of where worship should be, then they'll just give up worship. And that's detrimental. We want them to continue to worship, but worship in the right way.
Yes, Maharaj. Got it. Thank you. Hey, devotees, any questions or comments? Yeah, Maharaj, I was thinking like, but the demigod worship is very strong. Like, usually they argue, because you are fanatic of Krishna. You always, because ISKCON always preaches about Krishna. You always tell about Krishna, but other demigods are there, and they have strong beliefs in that worship. So, yeah, I feel like it's very hard to convince them or make them understand the position.
Yeah, but if you quote Krishna's statements about worship, Krishna is the Supreme Lord, the demigods are not. For what they are, they're higher beings who are angas of Krishna's universal affairs. They have a job, just like there's a president, and then you have your cabinet members, secretaries, senators, congressmen. all of them work underneath the guidance of the president, ideally. So in the same way, Krishna is the supreme personality of Godhead. The demigods are his servants also. Just like we have certain services that the demigods also, but their services are much more connected to the universal affairs. They make sure that the universal affairs go on properly.
Yes, yes, Maharaj. Yeah.
But they are
Sure.
not the Supreme Lord.
Mm.
Yeah,
Yeah, as Mataji was sharing.
you make that comparison. You're worshiping the demigods, but Krishna says that actually whatever the demigods can do is coming from me. And then Krishna also says their benedictions are limited and temporary, whereas devotional service is not limited and it's not temporary. It's unlimited, and whatever you perform, whatever devotional service you perform, remains with you eternally. It's never lost. But because the demigods give material benedictions, and material benedictions are what we say subject to the time element. And material benedictions do not necessarily bring about success. It's like you may get some material benediction, but that benediction may cause you distress.
Yes, Maharaj. Mm.
There's no guarantee that whatever you receive materially is going to make you happy and fulfill your desire. Because anything material is dualistic. It has two sides to it. It can give you some satisfaction, or you can bring you to hell also. People who won the lottery in America, many of them, their life went down. They were killed for their money. Some of them took to alcohol, intoxication, all kinds of sinful activities. Many of their relatives plotted against them to get their money somehow. They were thinking, wow, we won a lot of money. We're happy, we're rich. Man, but that's not the way of material life. Material life is not necessarily going to work in the way you want it to. You chase after a beautiful girl or a guy and you get married, and then you wound up it's the wrong person and it's a mess. So this is material life. Nothing's guaranteed. The only thing guaranteed in material life is that you'll lose whatever you get. That's the only guarantee.
Yes, Maharaj. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Spiritual life is permanent, eternal, and always moves higher and higher towards the goal, which is to develop love for Krishna.
Yeah. Thank you, Maharaj. Thank you. Sri Advait Prabhu, please go ahead.
Krishna Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances. Thank you so much for your wonderful class. Maharaj, I was hearing this lecture by His Holiness Indradyumna Maharaj, and Maharaj mentioned that when we get initiated, when we're connected to Sampradaya, we can pray to any of the acharyas which are in our lineage. And because our lineage starts from Lord Brahma and then it goes to Narada Muni, and I think they fall under the category of demigods. So I was wondering if we can still pray to them for a bhakti or help in our devotion services, because they are in a sampradaya.
Well, and people in our lineage are not in the category of demigods. They are pure devotees who are distributing pure devotional service coming from Lord Brahma down. Tene Brahma Adikabaye. What is it? Evam Paramparam Bhakta Evam Raja Sarvayadu. Krishna explains that this sampradaya is a connection between the devotee and the Supreme Personality of Godhead through the line of great souls. So you can pray to these great souls. They're not demigods. They're actually pure devotees. That's fine. But what was your question?
My question was because Lord Brahma and Narada Muni are demigods, right? So can we still pray to them?
But still, they're also they're Narda Rish. He's called Narda Rish or Deva Rish.
Mhm.
He's the sage of the demigods. And Brahma is the head of our sampradaya. He was spoken directly by Krishna to bring about the creation. So these are not ordinary devas. Lord Shiva also. These three especially, Shiva, Narada, and Brahma, are also in the category of devotional service. So Narada Muni is very powerful. Narada Muni Bhajai Vina Radhika Ramananam. He's chanting the glories of Radhika Raman as he plays on his Veena. And he sings the glories of the Lord. And he always goes somewhere to visit the devotees somewhere in the universe to give them some transcendental knowledge. He's not an ordinary demigod.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Thank you. Sridevi Mataji, please go ahead.
Continuing on this theme of demigod worship, which is so prominent, especially in India, Gurudev, if we tell people that, the Supreme Lord Shri Krishna is to be worshipped, there's a fear. Oh, no, if we worship Krishna, he will take everything away. He's Hari, he takes everything away. Whatever we have, we'll lose everything. So they don't want to worship Krishna because in the background, there's this fear. Krishna takes everything away.
Yeah, but he
So
gives you something in replace, though. He doesn't just take things away. He replaces it with something better.
Right.
Himself. So they want material happiness, and therefore they speak like that. The only way they'll change is that when their material happiness gets frustrated, when they start to understand that, I'm worshiping for material happiness, but I'm not getting any material happiness. Or they can't see what it's like to become a devotee from a perspective of a non-devotee. You can't understand what it's like to be a devotee when you're not practicing devotional service. You can only guess. Oh, he's taking everything away. Your parents will take things away from you too in order to give you something better. So do you reject your parents? That's why Krishna says, Rita Gyan, the demigod worshippers are less intelligent. Their intelligence is damaged. That's the statement. Yeah. They don't have clear intelligence.
Mhm.
Their minds are focused on the temporary rather than the eternal.
Thank you, Guru Maharaj.
What can you do? Just get them to chant Hare Krishna. Sono. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, please accept my obeisances to all the devotees as well. Maharaj, just a clarification, further to Advaita Prabhu's question, that to progress in bhakti, we should seek mercy of Brahma or Narada Muni rather than asking for anything, and to take away any material discomforts, we can pray to demigods, so that, but not to take it away, but to help us to discharge our devotional service. Is it right?
Yeah, you can pray not only to, you can pray to anybody. You even pray to your friend next door who's a devotee. Please help me, pray for me so I can make advancement in devotional service. So we devotees look for mercy from wherever mercy can be given. So, and we don't, what we're asking for is Krishna or devotional service, nothing material. So we see, we can do that. We can seek the blessings of, just like there's those who worship Lord Shiva, but they don't worship Lord Shiva to worship Lord Shiva. They worship Lord Shiva because he's Vaishnavanam Yata Shambhu. He's the greatest of all Vaishnavas. And so if you worship Lord Shiva to get Krishna, then Shiva will also give you some mercy that will help you in your worship of Lord Krishna.
Thank you, Maharaj. And can I ask one more question, please?
Was that one clear? I mean, yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
So, yeah. The other question is, Maharaj, when you say that they don't have the understanding, or a lot of people, including myself a few years ago, would not have got the taste of devotional service. So that's what, when we say you are aiming something higher, but if you haven't developed the taste for something higher, you are still going to get stuck on, with all these material desires. So we can ask them to, we can distribute prasadam, we can ask them to chant Hare Krishna, but is the philosophical lectures and all these things also help them to bring towards the real knowledge?
Well, we hope they will. See, a lot of people worship the demigods, but they don't even know why they do it, because they grew up doing it. It's part of family tradition. It's part of much of the Indian culture, and they just do it. It's like, oh, it's time to do this worship, time to do that worship. So they're just, brought up in that atmosphere to do all of these worships. And they think, well, this is the way we should do it. A lot of them don't even know why they're doing what they're doing. They're just doing it. So, but if you give them some, if they're attuned to philosophy, which many of them are not, then that's one way. Give them a book. Let them read the books. To try to explain it to them I think is less effective than just giving them a book and let them read the books.
Thank you, Maharaj. That was really, really very helpful. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji. Nice questions. Sri Advaita Prabhu, you have one more.
Krishna Maharaj, just last question for today. Maharaj, I'm aware that some devotees, they worship the form of Gopeshwar Mahadev on their altars. And I just wanted to know your thoughts on worshipping Gopeshwar Mahadev as a devotee.
What was that name again? What Mahadev? What was
Gopeshwar Mahadev.
Gopeshwar Mahadev. Well, if they're worshiping for material benedictions, then they're not in line with the bhakti process. But if they're worshiping or praying, not worshiping, but praying for mercy, like I know people have deities of Shiva, but they don't put them on their altar. They put them on the side. Shiva shouldn't be on the same altar with Krishna. He doesn't like that. It's an offense towards him. Just like if I tell you, you know, you should worship this person here because I'm worshiping this person and you should also worship this person. You might not agree with me. So Shiva will not agree to for him to accept worship on the same level as Krishna. And so it's kind of pretense. So, yeah, if you listen to, there was a seminar given by Bhakti Swami in 2023, the Gaur Purnima festival during the ILS meetings. And he covered this very carefully, how certain elements of demigod worship has seeped into our program of Krishna consciousness. And he showed why it's happening, why it's not necessary, and what is that mentality that thinks that we need these things. It's a nice seminar. It's very powerful. So yeah, it doesn't make it right just because it's being done.
Thank you so much, Maharaj. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Dear devotees, any more questions or comments? Maharaj, I don't see any questions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We got
Balaji Prabhu is asking.
Oji in the chat there. Yeah.
No, he's just commenting like very nice lecture, Maharaj, about the demigods worship and why we need to worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He has to drop off the meetings.
Krishna tells us that over and over again.
Yes, Maharaj. So I came across with some people who always say that when all our material things are settled down, then only we'll do bhakti, or and they are always entangled in those things. They don't think about coming out of that. Always, how much ever we try, they always think that now this is not the age, when middle age. Right now we have the energy and we want to do more things in this world. Why always do bhakti and restrict yourself with some things like that? They argue.
Still have
Maharaj.
material desires. They're still on the path of material success. That's why we preach. We preach to awaken people to their actual benefit. We are Jiva Sarupai Krishna Nityadas. We are eternal servants of the Supreme Lord in devotion. That's our identity. When we go for material things, we're worshiping in the shadow reflection of our existence. Because we have a material body, we think we have to fulfill the demands of the material body, and by doing that, we are thinking we were going to get happiness. But actually, to have a material body is an anomaly. Nobody, the soul doesn't need a material body. The soul takes on a material body when it comes to the material world. So all of the activities in the material world are simply due to having a material body. That's all. So, but if we act on a bodily platform, then we will be inclined to these things. If we act on the spiritual platform, then we'll move towards devotional service. And I think devotees don't have to worry about their material things. Krishna will take care of devotees.
Yes.
You don't have to make big arrangements. If you hear, these two verses from the Sri Upanishads. Om Purnam Madaham Purnam Idam Purnat Purnam Udachyate Purnasya Purnamadayam Purnameva Vasishyate. Everything is perfect and complete, and everything is coming from the complete whole, who is perfect and complete. And all of the things that come from the complete whole are also perfect and complete. Then the next verse goes on to say, what is that verse? Can't remember but one should, what is verse number
Yeah.
1 in Sri Upanishad? Anybody have it handy?
And I'll just open in the database.
It's really
Ishavashyam idam sarvam.
Yeah.
Yat kincha jigam jachikantena jaktena bundi jaha magridaha kashaswadanam. Translation?
Everything, 1 second, I'll share.
Everything animate and inanimate is owned and controlled by the Lord.
One should therefore accept only those things necessary for himself, which are set aside as his quota, and one should not accept other things, knowing well to whom they belong.
That means we should live according to our needs. If we live according to our needs, then what is the next verse? Verse number 2. It says, one may aspire to live for hundreds of years if he continually goes on working in that way. For that sort of work will not bind him to the law of karma. There is no alternative to this way for man. In other words, if we go outside of our needs, then we create karma and we get bound up by that karma. But if we live, if we aspire to understand everything is owned and controlled by the Lord, we take what is necessary to keep body and soul together. If you have family that's a little bit more, okay, fine. If you work in that way, then you can aspire to live for hundreds of years. That sort of work will not bind him to the law of karma. Karma comes when we want things that we don't need. Or instead of, having a nice, simple watch, we want a big Rolex gold watch that has all kinds of features on it. It's like, do we really need something like that? So yeah, these two verses plus this third one teaches you how to live.
Yes, Maharaj.
Yes, study these 3 verses.
Yes, Maharaj. Thank you. Dear devotees, any questions or comments? Maharaj, from Monday's class, I have this question. I couldn't get chance. So, how to get detached in a positive way, not in a negative way, from these things around us?
Dear Bande Krishna, Sambande Yukta Vairagya Uchtate, Anushakyate Visayam. Will somebody want to bring up that verse? Anasa Shakti Visayam. It's by Srila Rupa Goswami.
Will it be in the database, Maharaj?
Huh?
From which book it will be, Maharaj?
In Rupa Goswami's verse,
Nectar of Devotion?
yeah. Anata Sakta Vishayan Upayuj.
Asya Vishayan. Okay.
Yeah, Bande Krishna Sambande. Can you bring it up? That's a very important verse, quoted very often by the acharyas.
Yes, I'm searching.
Anata Sakta Visayan. You can look up Nirbande Krishna Sambande. You'll find that. Nirbande Krishna Sambande. That's the
I found in a lecture of Srila Prabhupada. One second.
Anasaktasya Visaya Niryata Upayunjate Nirbande Krishna Sambande. Yukta Vairagya Uchtate. The simple process. First of all, try to understand Krishna and try to love him.
No, this is not the translation.
Yeah, but this is Prabhupada's explanation, but go to the actual translation of the verse.
Yes, Maharaj. Mm.
Yeah, Nishringalila brought it up. Can you post it somehow?
Yes, Maharaj.
This is it. This answers your question directly, this verse.
Yeah, one second, Maharaj. I'm sharing. When one is not attached to anything, but at the same time accepts everything in relation to Krishna, one is rightly situated above possessiveness. On the other hand, one who rejects everything without knowledge of its relationship to Krishna is not as complete in his renunciation.
There you go. Yeah. Says
So,
that there's an explanation here also. You can read
yeah.
the explanation.
It's in the Bhagavad Gita 6.10 purport.
Down below. 7 through 12, right there.
Yeah.
And right here, you're passing it up. Whoop, you went past.
Okay. I was looking up for 9.
One who is
One
from,
who is firm in yoga is constantly engaged in Krishna consciousness in all his activities. Sri Rupa Goswami advises anasaktasya vishayan yatarham upayanjataha. One should be unattached in material affairs and do everything in Krishna consciousness. By this system, which is called Yukta Vairagya, one attains perfection. Therefore, the devotee is not disturbed by these descriptions because he knows that his passage to the supreme abode is guaranteed by devotional service.
yeah, and as it says, don't reject everything, but use whatever you can use in the service of the Lord. That is real renunciation.
So my dilemma is, Guru Maharaj, if whatever situations we are put in, we should accept it as a Krishna service, even material things.
Whatever situation you're in, you have to see how to use that situation and the paraphernalia that's involved. It's like, all right, you're taking care of your family. So guide the family towards Krishna. Rather than giving them something to eat, give them prasadam. In other words, just Krishna is everything. That's what it's about.
Yeah.
Connect things with Krishna. And if you don't know how to do that, then you need some advice from the spiritual master or from the acharyas. They can also give you the plaque. That's why if you go for Prabhupada's explanations on these verses, you get this right here. It says Rupa Goswami says, as long as we are in this material world, we have to act. We cannot cease acting. Therefore, if actions are performed and the fruits are given to Krishna, that is called Yukta Vairagya. Actually, situated in renunciation, such actions, he's clear the mirror of the mind. And as the actor gradually makes progress in spiritual life, he becomes completely surrendered to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And then, of course, again, Prabhupada says, as far as work is concerned, one should transfer his energy entirely to Krishna conscious activities. You can't do that, at least spiritualize your activities and try to offer, as Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, Yat karosi yaranasi, yatahosi dadasi yat. That's 927. That was mentioned earlier.
Yes.
All you do, all that you give away, all you offer should be done as an offering to me.
Yeah, but the only challenge is like the situations test your tolerance and patience. At that time, it's very difficult to become detached or not react to those situations.
Just
in
Chant
different-
Hare Krishna, remember Krishna, that's all.
Yeah, yes, Maharaj.
Do that anytime. You don't need to be doing that only at certain times.
Yes, yes, yeah.
When you remember Krishna, everything becomes clear.
Thank you so much. Thank you for explaining.
And you may not always be successful, but at least you have the formula.
Mm. Okay, thank you, Maharaj. Thank you so much.
Okay. So
Yeah,
we'll
we
see.
have passed the hour, 20 minutes almost. So shall we end the call here, Maharaj?
Yeah, so we'll be back on Friday. Tomorrow, I won't be able to give the class because of travel.
Yes, Maharaj.
But we'll be back with Harrisburg on Friday.
Friday, yeah.
Yeah.
I'll share the verse number on the WhatsApp group tomorrow before the class. Thank you so much. Dear devotees, thank you, Maharaj, for your time and association. And we look forward for your association on Friday. Devotees will join tomorrow again for one more class. Thank you. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Candramauli Swami.
Hare
Maharaj.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna, thank you so much.
Krishna, thank you very much for today's class.
Thank you.
Thank you, Guru Maharaj.